Have you ever sat in a room full of people and still felt completely alone? Have you ever reached for the phone to call someone, only to realize that the list of people who truly understand your world has grown shorter than you ever imagined it could? If you're over 80, or if you love someone who is, then you know that loneliness in later years isn't just about being by yourself. It's about something much deeper, much more complex, and yes, sometimes much more painful than most people are willing to talk about. In this video, we're going to have an honest conversation about the realities of aging loneliness that no one prepares you for, the truths that your family might not understand, and the feelings that you might think you're experiencing alone. But what I want you to know is, before we begin, acknowledging these realities isn't about giving up or feeling hopeless. Most people think that loneliness after 80 is just about missing people or having fewer friends, but the truth is far more nuanced and, in some ways, far more profound than that. Understanding these realities is actually the first step toward finding genuine connection and peace in this stage of life. Stay with me until the end, because while we're going to explore some difficult truths together, we're also going to discover that even in the deepest loneliness, there are pathways to meaning, connection, and a kind of peace that can only come with the wisdom of having lived a full life. Welcome to Wisdom After 70, where we believe that every stage of life deserves honest conversation, genuine understanding, and the kind of compassion that can only come from truly seeing and acknowledging what it means to age with dignity in a world that often overlooks the inner lives of older adults. I'm here because I know that when you're over 80, loneliness isn't just a feeling. It's often a daily reality that touches every aspect of your existence, from the moment you wake up to the quiet hours before sleep. The loneliness that comes with advanced age is different from the loneliness of younger years. It's not just about romantic relationships or career connections. It's about watching your world gradually become smaller, about being one of the last people who remembers certain stories, certain places, certain ways of being in the world that have disappeared forever. We're going to explore 5 brutal but important realities about loneliness after 80. These aren't easy truths to face, but understanding them can help you feel less alone in your experience and can help your family members understand what you're really going through. More importantly, recognizing these realities can help you find new ways to create meaning and connection, even when the old ways no longer seem available to you. This conversation is for you if you're living this reality, and it's for anyone who loves someone navigating these deep waters of late-life loneliness. The first brutal reality is perhaps the hardest to accept, and it's this. The loneliness that comes from outliving your peers isn't just about missing people. It's about becoming a living repository of memories that no one else shares. When you're over 80, you may find yourself as one of the last people who remembers your childhood neighborhood, your first job, the way your spouse looked when you were young, or the friends who shaped your early adult years. This isn't just grief. It's a unique form of existential loneliness that comes from being a keeper of stories that may die with you. You remember the corner store that's now a parking lot, the way your mother sang while doing dishes, the sound of your father's laugh, the conversations you had with friends who are no longer here to confirm that those moments really happened the way you remember them. This type of loneliness can feel overwhelming because it's not something that can be fixed by meeting new people or joining social groups. It's the loneliness of being a witness to time itself, of carrying within yourself entire worlds that exist now only in your memory. Young people, even your own children and grandchildren, may listen politely to your stories, but they can't truly share the emotional weight of these memories because they weren't there, They didn't live in that world. They don't understand what it meant to you to experience those times. This reality can make you feel invisible in a very profound way, as if the most meaningful parts of your life exist in a place that no one else can visit. But what I want you to understand about this brutal reality is being a keeper of memories isn't just a burden, it's also a sacred role. Your memories matter, your stories have value, and the fact that you carry these experiences within you makes you a living bridge between the past and the present. Consider writing down your memories, not just the facts, but the feelings, the smells, the sounds, the way things made you feel. Even if no one reads them now, you're preserving something precious. Find ways to share these memories with younger family members, not as lectures but as gifts, stories that help them understand where they come from and who they are. Second, brutal reality cuts even deeper, and it's about the gradual shrinking of your social world in ways that feel beyond your control. As you age past 80, you don't just lose friends to death. You lose them to illness, mobility issues, cognitive changes, and geographic moves. Your social circle becomes smaller not by choice but by circumstance, and each loss feels magnified because replacement becomes increasingly difficult. Making new friends at 80 is not like making friends at 30 or even 60. The energy required for building new relationships, the common experiences that typically bond people together, the simple logistics of getting together regularly, all of these become more challenging. You may find yourself in the painful position of having acquaintances, but few true confidants, people who know your current situation, but not your history, your needs, but not your dreams. This reality is made even more difficult by the fact that many social activities and community gatherings are designed for people who can drive, who have abundant energy, or who don't have the physical limitations that often come with advanced age. You may feel like you're watching from the sidelines as life continues around you, unable to participate in the ways you once did. The loneliness that comes from this shrinking social world is particularly brutal because it can make you feel forgotten, as if your absence wouldn't be noticed or mourned. But an important truth about this reality is the quality of connections matters more than the quantity. Even one or two meaningful relationships can provide more comfort and joy than a large circle of superficial acquaintances. Focus on deepening the relationships you do have, even if they're with neighbors, caregivers, or family members who may not have been close friends before. Be intentional about staying connected. Make phone calls, send cards, use technology if you're able. Consider that some of the most meaningful connections you can make at this stage of life might be intergenerational. Relationships with younger people who can benefit from your wisdom and experience while bringing fresh energy into your world. If you're still with me and recognizing yourself in these realities, take a moment to comment the number 2 below. Let me know that you're here, that you're not alone in experiencing these challenges, and that together we can find ways to navigate the complex landscape of aging loneliness with courage and grace. The third brutal reality is one that many families struggle to understand, and it's about the profound loneliness that can exist even when you're surrounded by people who love you. This is the loneliness of feeling like a burden, of sensing that your needs and limitations are creating stress for your family, of worrying that your presence is more obligation than joy for the people closest to you. When you're over 80, you may need more help than you once did. Assistance with transportation, household tasks, medical appointments, or even basic daily activities. While your family may provide this help willingly and lovingly, you may still feel the weight of dependency in ways that create a unique form of loneliness. You might find yourself holding back from asking for what you need because you don't want to be a bother. Or you might feel guilty about the ways your limitations affect family gatherings, travel plans, or daily routines. This type of loneliness is particularly painful because it exists alongside love. You know your family cares about you, but you also feel like your aging body and mind are creating challenges that separate you from them emotionally, even when you're physically together. You may long for the days when you were the one providing help rather than receiving it, when your role in the family was that of supporter rather than supported. The conversations around you might focus on your medical appointments, your medications, your limitations, rather than your thoughts, feelings, or interests. You can feel reduced to your age and your needs rather than seen as the full, complex person you still are inside. This reality is brutal because it can make you feel lonely for your former self, for the person you used to be in relationship with others. But understanding this loneliness is crucial because it's often about role changes rather than love changes. Your family's love for you hasn't diminished, but everyone is adjusting to new roles and new ways of being together. Communicate openly about your feelings. Let your family know that you want to contribute in whatever ways you can, that you value conversations about topics other than your health, and that you need to feel needed and valued, not just protected and cared for. Find ways to give, even if they're different from how you gave before, sharing wisdom, offering encouragement. Being a loving presence can be just as valuable as any practical help you once provided. Fourth brutal reality is perhaps the most existential, and it involves the loneliness that comes from facing your own mortality, while the world around you continues to focus on beginnings rather than endings. When you're over 80, death is not an abstract concept. It's a present reality that touches your life regularly through the loss of peers, changes in your own health, and the simple arithmetic of knowing that you have fewer years ahead than behind. This awareness can create a profound form of loneliness because it's difficult to share these thoughts and feelings with people who aren't facing the same reality. Younger family members may become uncomfortable when you want to talk about death, end-of-life wishes, or what your life has meant. They may try to change the subject, offer false reassurances, or become upset at the mention of your mortality. This leaves you alone with some of your deepest thoughts and most important reflections. You may find yourself thinking about legacy, about what will remain when you're gone, about whether your life has mattered in the ways you hoped it would. These are natural, important thoughts, but they can feel isolating when there's no one who seems comfortable discussing them with you. The culture around you focuses on youth, on new beginnings, on futures that stretch endlessly ahead, while you're living in the wisdom of understanding that all things, including your own life, are temporary. This can make you feel out of step with the world around you, lonely in your acceptance of life's finite nature. But here's what's important to understand about this reality. Your willingness to face mortality isn't morbid, it's courageous and wise. Your thoughts about death and meaning are valuable and deserve to be heard. Consider finding spaces where these conversations are welcomed, perhaps with a counselor who specializes in aging issues, a spiritual advisor, or even other seniors who are comfortable discussing these profound topics. Your reflections on life and death, on meaning and legacy, are among the most important insights you have to offer. Don't let others' discomfort rob you of the opportunity to process these thoughts and share this wisdom. Fifth and final brutal reality is the one that ties all the others together, and it's about the loneliness of being truly seen and understood in a society that often views aging as decline rather than continuation of a rich, complex inner life. The most painful aspect of aging loneliness is often not being alone, but being around people who see only your limitations, your age, your needs, rather than the full person you remain inside. You may feel invisible not because you're physically unseen, but because the depth of your thoughts, the complexity of your emotions, the continued growth and change you experience as a person are overlooked or dismissed. People may speak to you differently, make assumptions about your capabilities or interests, or treat you as if your age defines everything about who you are. The loneliness of not being truly seen is perhaps the most difficult to bear, because it touches the very core of your identity and dignity. You remain the same complex person you've always been. You still have opinions, dreams, fears, joys, and insights. You still experience the full range of human emotions. You still grow and change and learn, even at 80 and beyond. But the world around you may relate to you primarily as an elderly person rather than as the unique individual you are. This can make you feel profoundly alone, even in crowded rooms, lonely for recognition of your continued humanity and relevance. The brutal reality is that ageism in our society creates a form of social loneliness that goes beyond personal relationships. It's about feeling disconnected from a culture that doesn't value the wisdom and experience that comes with age. But recognizing this reality can actually help you reclaim your sense of self and find others who do see you fully. Seek out relationships and communities where your age is seen as an asset rather than a limitation. Share your thoughts and feelings openly, refusing to let others reduce you to stereotypes about aging. Advocate for yourself when you're not being treated with the respect and dignity you deserve. Remember that your inner life is as rich and valuable now as it ever was. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. This is often the moment that families begin to understand that loneliness in advanced age isn't something that can be fixed with simple solutions or well-meaning advice. These 5 brutal realities, the loneliness of being a keeper of memories no one else shares, the pain of a naturally shrinking social world, the isolation that can exist even within loving families, the solitude of facing mortality in a death-denying culture, and the profound loneliness of not being truly seen as the complex person you remain. These are real, valid experiences that deserve acknowledgement and understanding. What I want you to know is recognizing these realities doesn't mean accepting hopelessness. Understanding the true nature of aging loneliness is actually the first step toward finding authentic ways to address it. When you stop pretending that loneliness after 80 is the same as loneliness at any other age, you can begin to find solutions that actually fit your reality. You can stop feeling guilty about feelings that are actually normal responses to profound life changes. You can begin to communicate your needs more clearly to family members who may not understand what you're experiencing. Most importantly, you can begin to find meaning and connection in ways that honor who you are now, rather than trying to recreate who you used to be. Your loneliness is real, and it's valid, and it's not something you should have to bear in silence or shame. But your loneliness is also not the end of your story. Even in the midst of these difficult realities, there are opportunities for connection, meaning, and peace that are unique to this stage of life. The wisdom that comes from having lived long, the perspective that comes from having survived loss and change, the depth of understanding that comes from facing life's biggest questions, these are gifts that can create connections and purpose even in the midst of loneliness. As we close our time together today, I want you to know that if you're experiencing the loneliness that comes with being over 80, you're not alone in feeling alone. These struggles are real, they're common, and they're nothing to be ashamed of. Your feelings matter, your experiences are valid, and your continued growth and change as a person deserve recognition and respect. The brutal realities we've discussed in this video are not the end of the story. They're the beginning of a deeper understanding that can lead to more authentic connections and a more peaceful relationship with this stage of your life. If this conversation has resonated with you, if you've recognized yourself in these realities, or if you have insights to share about navigating loneliness in later life, please let us know in the comments below. Your voice matters, your experience has value, and together we can create a community where the realities of aging are acknowledged with honesty and met with compassion. Consider subscribing to our channel if you want to continue these important conversations about the real experiences of aging. And remember, even in your loneliest moments, you are part of a larger community of people who understand, who care, and who refuse to let age diminish the value and dignity of human experience. You are not alone, even when loneliness feels overwhelming, and your life continues to have meaning and purpose, even when the world around you might not always recognize it.